Good evening, and good night, you could say. We're back again, with some more Persona 5 gameplay. And this time, I've decided I'm going to read through the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition monster manual. I find that it might be a bit difficult to narrate consistently over longer periods of video, so I thought this way, we can work our way through the monster manual, and also fall asleep, learning a little bit about some of our geekier things in the world of D&D. So we're going to do this alphabetically, A through Z, in different parts and different videos with different content. So first of all, we're going to start with the Aarakocra. Aarakocra range from the Howling Gear, an endless storm of mighty winds, and lashing rains that surround the tranquil realm of Aqua in the elemental plane of air. Making aerial patrols, these bird-like humanoids guard the windy borders of their home against invaders from the elemental plane of earth, such as gargoyles, the sworn enemy. In service to the Wind Dukes of Aqua, Aarakocra scout the plains in search of the temples of elemental evil. They spy on malign elemental creatures, and then either take to fight to those creatures, or report back to the Wind Dukes. On the material plane, Aarakocra create areas atop the highest mountains, especially peaks near portals to the elemental plane of air, and from such heights, the Aarakocra watch for signs of elemental incursions, as well as for nascent threats to their home plane. Aarakocra prefer to live their lives like the wind, unburdened and never moving, yet they watch over a region for years if that's what it takes, to guard against the incursions of elemental evil. Aarakocra have no concept of political borders or property ownership, and the value of gems, gold, and other precious materials mean little to the Aarakocra. In their eyes, a creature should only use what is necessary and then cast what is left on the wind for others to use. The Wind Dukes of Aqua come from a race of elemental beings called the Vati, which once ruled many worlds. A creature known as the Queen of Chaos arose and initiated an interplanetary war against the Vati rule. To combat the threat, 7 Vati heroes combined their powers to create the Mighty Rod of Law, and in a battle against the Queen's greatest general, Miska, the Wolf Spider, a Vati killed Miska by thrusting the rod into him like a spear. The rod shattered into 7 shards that scattered across the multiverse, and Aarakocra seeks signs of the pieces' locations in order to rebuild what is now known as the Rod of 7 Parts. And did you know that Aarakocra can summon air elementals? If 5 Aarakocra within 30 feet of each other can magically summon an air elemental, but each of the 5 must use its own action and movement on 3 consecutive turns to perform an aerial dance, and must maintain concentration while doing so, almost as if concentrating on a spell. When all 5 have finished their 3rd turn of the dance, the elemental will appear in an unoccupied space within 60 feet of them. It is friendly towards them and obeys their spoken commands, and it remains for up to an hour, until all the summoners die, or until any of the summoners dismiss it as a bonus action. The summoner can't perform that dance again until it finishes a short rest, and when the elemental returns to the elemental plane of air, any of the Aarakocra within 5 feet of it can return with it. So, an Aarakocra stat block. It's a medium humanoid, and it's a neutral good alignment. It's got an armor class or AC of 12, and averages 13 hit points. It has 20 feet of movement speed, but can fly for 50 feet. And its ability scores are Strength 10, Dexterity 14, Constitution 10, Intelligence 11, Wisdom 12, and Charisma 11. Its skills are noted as Perception +5, with a passive perception of 15, and its languages known are Aarakocra and Orin, and it clocks in at a challenge rating of 1/4. It's got a dive attack feature. If it's flying and dives at least 30 feet straight towards a target, then hits it with a melee weapon, the attack will deal an extra 3 on average, or 1d6 damage to the target. And its attack actions are its talents. It's a melee weapon attack, +4 to hit, a reach of 5 foot with 1 target, and on hit it's 4 average damage or 1d4 plus 2 slashing. It can also use a javelin as either a melee or a ranged attack, with a plus 4 to hit, reach for 5 foot if melee, or a range of 30 to 120 foot if thrown. It's at 1 target, and a hit on average will do 5 damage, or 1d6 plus 2 piercing. Okay, moving on, we're going to talk about the aboleths. So, before the coming of the gods, aboleths lurked in primordial oceans and underground lakes. They reached out with their minds and seized control of the burgeoning life forms of the mortal realm, making those creatures their slaves. Their dominance made them like gods almost. Then the true gods appeared, smashing the aboleth's empire and freeing the slaves. But the aboleths have never forgotten. You see, aboleths have flawless memories. They pass on their knowledge and experience from generation to generation. Thus, the injury of their defeat by the gods remains perfectly preserved in their minds. Aboleth minds are treasure troves of ancient lore, recalling memories from prehistory with perfect clarity. They plot patiently and intricately across the eons, and few creatures can conceive of the extent of an aboleth's plan. Aboleths dwell in watery environments, including ocean abysses, deep lakes, and also the elemental plane of water. And in these domains and lands that adjoin them, the aboleths are like gods, demanding worship and obedience from their subjects. When they consume other creatures, aboleths add the knowledge and experience of their prey to their eternal memories. Aboleths use their telepathic powers to read the minds of creatures and know their desires. An aboleth will use this knowledge to gain a creature's loyalty, promising to fulfill such wants in exchange for their obedience and worship. Within its lair, the aboleth can further use its powers to override senses, granting creatures such as its followers the illusions of these promised rewards. The aboleth's fall from power is written in stark clarity on their flawless memories, for aboleths never truly die. If an aboleth's body is destroyed, its spirit returns to the elemental plane of water, where a new body will coalesce, and it can take months, days, whatever. Ultimately, aboleths dreams of overthrowing the gods and regaining control of their world, and the aboleth have had untold eons to plot and to prepare the plans for perfect execution. So an aboleth lairs in subterranean lakes, or the rocky depths of an ocean, often surrounded by the ruins of an ancient fallen aboleth city, and an aboleth will spend most of its existence underwater, surfacing occasionally to treat with visitors or deranged worshippers. When fighting inside its lair, an aboleth can invoke the ambient magic to take lair actions. On initiative count 20, the aboleth can take a lair action to cause one of the following effects. It can cast phantasmal force with no components on any number of creatures it can see within 60 foot of it. While maintaining concentration on the effect, it can't take any other lair actions. If a target succeeds on a saving throw, or the effect ends for it, it's immune to the aboleth's phantasmal force lair action for the next 24 hours, although such creatures can choose to be affected. Pools of water within 90 foot of the aboleth surge out and almost act like a grasping tide. Any creature on the ground within 20 foot of it must succeed on a DC 14 strength saving throw, or else it will be pulled into 20 foot of water and knocked prone. The aboleth can't use this lair action again until it's used a different one. And lastly, water in the aboleth's lair magically becomes a conduit for the creature's rage. The aboleth can target any number of creatures it can see in the water within 90 foot of it, and they must succeed on a DC 14 wisdom saving throw. They take an average of 7 or 2d6 psychic damage. Again, the aboleth can't use this lair action again until it's used a different one. So regional effects. The region containing an aboleth's lair is warped by the creature's presence, which can create one or more of the following effects. It can create underground surfaces within a mile of the aboleth's lair, or slimy, wet, and difficult terrain, so that's half your movement speed. It can make water sources within a mile of it supernaturally fouled, so enemies of the aboleth that drink the water would vomit it up within minutes. It can also, as an action, create illusionary images of itself within a mile of the lair. The copy of it can appear at any location that the aboleth has seen before, or in any location a creature that's charmed by the aboleth can currently see. Once created, the image lasts for as long as the aboleth maintains concentration, like concentrating on a spell. Although the image is intangible, it looks, sounds and can move just like the aboleth. The aboleth can sense, speak and use telepathy from that image's position, almost as if it's present in that position itself. If the image takes any damage though, it disappears. And if an aboleth dies, the first two effects fade over the course of 3d10 days. Okay, let's look at the aboleth stat. So an aboleth is a large aberration of lawful evil alignment. It's got an AC or armor class of 17, hit points average on 135, and it's got a 10-foot movement speed but a swimming speed of 40-foot movement per action. The ability stats are Strength 21, Dexterity 9, Constitution 15, Intelligence 18, Wisdom 15 and Charisma 18. Saving throws, it's got a Constitution saving throw of +6, Intelligence saving throw of +8 and a Wisdom saving throw of +6. Its noted skills are History +12 and Perception +10, and has a passive perception of 20 and dark vision up to 120 feet. The languages known are deep speech and telepathy up to 120 feet, and it's a clocks in at a whopping challenge rating 10. Its noted abilities are amphibious, so it can breathe air and water. It also has a stat block of mucus cloud. While underwater, the aboleth is surrounded by transformative mucus. A creature that touches the aboleth or that hits it with a melee attack within 5 feet of it has to make a DC 14 con saving throw, and on a failure the creature is diseased for 1d4 hours, and the diseased creature can only breathe underwater. Also has a noted stat of probing telepathy, and if a creature communicates telepathically with the aboleth learns the creature's greatest desires, if the aboleth can see it. It can make a multi-attack action with 3 tentacle attacks, and the tentacle attack clocks in as a melee weapon attack +9 to hit with a 10-foot reach with 1 target. Average, it hits for 12 bludgeoning damage but 2d6 +5. If the target's a creature, it must succeed a DC 14 con saving throw or become diseased again. The disease has no effect for 1 minute, which is 10 rounds in D&D, and can be removed by any magic that cures disease, but after a minute the diseased creature's skin starts to become translucent and slimy. The creature can't regain health points unless it's underwater, and the disease can be removed only by a heal or another disease curing spell of 6th level or higher. That's punchy. When the creature is outside a body of water, it will take 6 on average, but a d12 acid damage every 10 minutes unless moisture is applied to the skin before the 10 minutes have passed. That's one hell of an attack. So it can also make a tail attack, which is a melee weapon attack with a +9 to hit, 10-foot reach, 1 target obviously, and on average it hits for 15 bludgeoning damage, but that's 3d6 +5. It also has one other noted action called Enslave. 3 times a day it can do this, and it targets 1 creature it can see within 30 foot, and they must succeed a DC 14 Wisdom saving throw or be magically charmed by the aboleth until it dies or until it's on a different plane of existence from the target. The charmed target is under the aboleth's control and can't take reactions, and the aboleth and the target can communicate telepathically with each other over any distance. And whenever the charmed target takes damage, the target can repeat the saving throw, and on success the effect does end. No more than once every 24 hours, the target can also repeat the saving throw when it's at least 1 mile away from the aboleth. So the Aboleth also has legendary actions, and it can take 3 of these. Only one legendary action option can be used at a time, and only at the end of a different creature's turn. The Aboleth regains spent legendary actions at the start of its turn. Brutal, right? So it can detect, which will make a wisdom perception check. It can tail swipe, it makes a tail attack, and it can also psychic drain, which costs 2 action points. And one creature charmed by the Aboleth will take 10 on average, but 3d6 psychic damage. And the Aboleth regains hit points equal to the damage that creature takes. Okay, so let's continue on with the next section, which is angels. So, in the D&D world, an angel is a celestial agent sent forth into the planes to further its god agenda, for better or worse. Its beauty and presence can drive onlookers to their knees. Yet, don't be so misconstrued. Angels can be destroyers also. Their appearance portends doom, as often it signals hope. Angels are formed from the astral essence of benevolent gods and are thus divine beings of great power and foresight. Angels act out of the will of their gods with tireless devotion. Even chaotic good deities command lawful good angels, knowing that the angel's dedication to orders best allows them to fulfill divine commands. An angel follows a single driving purpose, as decreed by its deity. However, an angel is incapable of following commands that stray from the path of law and good. An angel slays evil creatures without remorse. As the embodiment of law and good, an angel is almost never mistaken in its judgments. This quality can create a sense of superiority in an angel, a sense that comes to the fore when an angel's task conflicts with the goals of another creature. The angel never acquiesces or gives way, and when an angel is sent to aid mortals, it is sent not to serve but to command. The gods of good, therefore, send their angels among mortals, only in response to the most dire of circumstances. There are also fallen angels. An angel's moral compass grants it this sense of infallibility that can sometimes spell its own undoing. Angels are usually too wise to fall for a simple deception, but sometimes pride can lead one to commit an act of evil. Whether it's intentional or accidental, such an act is a permanent stain that marks the angel as an outcast. Fallen angels retain their power, but lose their connection to their deities from which they were made. And most fallen angels take their banishment personally, whether it's rebelling against the powers they served by seeking rulership over a section of the abyss, or a place among other fallen in the hierarchy of the Nine Hells. Zariel, the ruler of the first layer of the Nine Hells, is one of those such creatures. Rather than rebel, some fallen angels resign themselves to an isolated existence in the material plane, living in disguise as simple hermits. If they are redeemed, they can become powerful allies dedicated to justice and compassionate service. An angel doesn't require food, drink or sleep. It's got an immortal nature. So there's different kinds of angels in the monster manual. We've got the Deva. The Devas are angels that act as divine messengers, almost like agents to the material plane, the Shadowfell, and the Feywild, and they can assume forms appropriate to the realms that they're sent to. The legends tell of angels that take mortal forms for years, lending aid, hope, and courage to good-hearted folk. And the Deva can take any shape, although it prefers to appear to mortals as an innocuous humanoid or animal. When circumstances require that it cast off its guise, a Deva is a beautiful humanoid-like creature with silvery skin. Its hair and eyes gleam with an unearthly lustre, and large feathery wings unfurl from its shoulder blades. So looking at the stat block of a Deva, we see it's a medium celestial of lawful good alignment. Clocks in with an AC armour class of 17, an average hit points of 136. It's got 30 foot of movement speed like most humanoids, but it's got a flying speed of 90 foot, so it's quite swift. Its ability scores, you're looking at 18 strength, 18 dex, 18 con, 17 intelligence, and wisdom and charisma of 20. It's got wisdom +9 and charisma +9 saving throws. And its noted skills are perception of +9 and insight of +9, so there's not much getting past it. It's got resistances to the damage types of radiant, bludgeoning, piercing and slashing from non-magical attacks, so that's half damage. It's also immune to being charmed, exhausted or frightened. Its noted senses are dark vision of 120 foot and a passive perception of 19, so not much gets by it. It knows all languages, and it's also capable of telepathy up to 120 feet. This clocks in just like the Aboleth at a challenge rating of 10. It's known to have angelic weapons. All Deva weapons attacks are magical, and when the Deva hits with any weapon, magic deals an extra 4d8 radiant damage included in the attack. It's also got the purposes of innate spellcasting, where the Deva's spellcasting ability is charisma, and it's got a spell save DC of 17. Oof. The Deva can innately cast the following spells requiring only verbal components. At will, it can cast Detect Evil and Good. Once a day, it can either cast Commune or Raise Dead. It's got magical resistance as well, and it's got advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. The Deva can also make multi-attacks. It can make up to 2 melee attacks with a multi-attack. Standard attacks are usually classed as a mace attack. It is a melee weapon attack of +8 to hit with a 5 foot reach, 1 target, and average it hits for 7 bludgeoning damage, which rolled would be a d6 +4. Or, on top of that, it also gets a +18 on average, or 4d8 radiant damage. So that's a d6 +4 and 4d8 for one of its 2 melee attacks. It can also do Healing Touch 3 times a day. If it touches a creature, they can make it magically regain 20 on average, but 4d8 +2 hit points, and is freed from any curse, disease, poison, blindness or deafness. Its actions can also allow it to change shape. It can magically polymorph into a humanoid or beast that has a challenge rating equal to or less than its own, which is 10, or back into its true form. It reverts to its true form if it dies, and any equipment it is wearing or carrying is absorbed or borne by the new form of the Deva's choice. In the new form, the Deva retains its characteristics and its ability to speak and communicate, but its AC, movement modes, strength, dex and special senses are replaced by the new form, and it gains any statistics or capabilities except class features or legendary actions or layer actions that the new form has that it lacks itself. Okay, so next in the angel section we have what we call planetars. They're a different form of angel than Devas. So planetars act as a weapon of the gods that they serve, presenting a tangible representation of their abilities and deities' might. Planetar can call down rain to relieve a drought, or can lose an insect plague to devour crops. A planetar's celestial ears detect every falsehood, and its radiant eyes see through every deception. Planetars are muscular and hairless, and have opalescent green skin and white feathered wings. They tower over most humanoids, and they brandish an immense sword with grace, sometimes sent to aid powerful mortals on important tasks for good. Planetars are especially fond of missions that invoke battling fiends. So looking at the planetar stat block, they're classed as a large celestial, lawful good of course. They get an AC of 19, hit points average on 200, with a 40 foot movement speed and a standard flying speed of 120 foot. It's a little bit punchier than the Deva. Their ability scores roll in at a strength 24, Dex 20, Constitution 24, Intelligence 19, Wisdom 22, and Charisma 25. A step above your Deva, for sure. Their saving throws roll in at a Constitution save of plus 12, Wisdom plus 11, and Charisma plus 12. With a skill of Perception at plus 11. Fuck me. They're resistant to Radiant, Bludgeoning, Piercing, Slashing damage from all non-magical attacks. And they're immune again to being charmed, exhausted or frightened. Pretty standard for these types. Their senses include True Sight at 120 foot, so that can see through magical deception or like guise and through walls and shit. It's fucking crazy. And their passive perception is at 21. No DM is getting anything past that. And they know all languages and also can communicate telepathically up to 120 foot. And they clock in at a CR challenge rating of 16. So they are noted to have angelic weapons, so all their weapon attacks are magical. When they hit with any weapon, they deal an extra 5d8 radiant damage included with the attack itself. They've got divine awareness, so they know if they hear lies. It's like the zone of truth, but on crack. Like, there's no, they can choose to fail and blah blah blah. They just know if you're lying. They can see through your bullshit. They've noted to have innate spellcasting with a charisma based spellcasting, which has a DC spell save of 20. And they can innately cast some of these spells with no material components at will. Just like the Deva, they can do detect evil and good, but they can cast invisibility on themselves as much as they like. Up to 3 times a day they can cast the spells Blade Barrier, Dispel Evil and Good, Flame Strike, and also Raise Dead. And once a day they can do each of these kind of spells, like Control the Weather, Insect Plague or Commune, which is pretty nutty. They're also magically resistant and have advantage on saves against spells or any magical effects. They do 2 melee attacks with their multi-attack action, usually, which is a greatsword. It's a plus 12 to hit, 5 foot reach, 1 target, 21 average slashing damage, but that's 4d6 plus 7 if you want to be cruel, and that always adds on a 5d8 radiant damage extra, so that is fucking punchy. You get one of these guys on your side, you are wrecking shit. So they can also do the healing touch just like the Deva, but they can do it 4 times a day instead of 3 times a day. And they actually have a bit more of a buff than the Deva. The Deva can do up to 20 on average, 4d8 plus 2 hit points. But these guys, Planetars, do 30 on average or 68 plus 3 hit points. And the usual, freed from any curse, disease, poison, blindness, or sort of deafness kind of stuff, you know. Okay, so last in the Angel section of the Monster Manual, not the DMG, the Monster Manual, we have the Angel type called Solars. So a Solar is like godlike in its own glory and power. On the battlefield, the Solar sword flies into the fray on its own, and a single arrow from a Solar bow can like strike a target dead on arrival. So great is a Solar celestial might that even demon princes shrink as its resonant commands. It's said that only 24 Solar exist. The few Solars that are known are stewards of specific deities themselves. The others rest in a state of contemplation, waiting for the time when their services are needed to like stave off some cosmic threat to the cause of good. So let's have a look at the Solar's stat block. Again, it's a large celestial of lawful good nature. Its AC armor class of 21, hit points average on 243, and it's got a 50 foot movement speed per action turn and a flying speed of 150 foot. So you thought the Planetar was good, you thought the Planetar was upgraded to the Deva. This is the crack addled holy fucking diver of the celestial realms. So their stat block: since we're stepping up a notch, rocks in at a strength of 26, that's plus 8 to their checks. Dexterity of 22, Constitution 26, Intelligence 25, Wisdom 25, Charisma 30, that's a plus 10. Oh my god. So their saving throws, Intelligence saving throw plus 14. You ain't getting fucking spell attacks on that bastard. If it's save or suck, they are saving. Wisdom 14, Charisma 17 saving throws, they are punchy and resilient. They get a perception skill of plus 14. They could roll very poorly and still fucking see through the bullshit. They get the standard angel damage resistances of like radiant, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical attacks. And they're also immune to necrotic and poison damage. And they're immune to the usual charmed, exhaustion, frightened, poisoned kind of things. They've got true sight like the Planetar of 120 foot, seeing through walls, guises, see all. They see everything. They get that hack unlocked. And they've got a passive perception of 24. They know all languages and again can speak telepathically up to 120 foot. They rock in at a whopping CR challenge rating of 21, aka 33,000 XP if you're ever able to take down these fucks, but I don't think you are. They again come with the angelic weapons. For all intents and purposes, all their attacks with their weapons are magical, and when they hit with a weapon, on top of the weapon's damage, they do 6d8 radiant damage. They've got the stat block alignment of divine awareness. They know if they hear a lie, just like the fucking Planetars. And their innate spellcasting rocks in again with charisma, but their spell save DC is a whopping 25. What the hell? You're not getting anything past. You're sucking with that. And they can innately cast these spells with no material components needed. At will, the usual detect good and evil, visibility on self, just like fucking Planetars. 3 times a day they can do blade barrier, dispel good and evil, and resurrection. And once a day they can do the commune spell or control weather. They're magically resistant, so they get advantage on saves against spells or other magical effects. And they rock in with their attack actions with multi-attack, 2 attacks. Greatsword is a plus 15 to hit, 5 foot reach, 1 target, on average 22 slashing, but that's 4d6 plus 8, plus 27 on average, if not 6d8 radiant damage. They've got their slaying longbow, which is a ranged attack, plus 13 to hit with up to 150 to 600 foot of range of 1 target, and on a hit that's 15 average but 2d8 plus 6 piercing, plus the additional 6d8 radiant damage, on average 27, but no DM takes the average. They do the 6d8, they make you pay with that shit. And if the target is a creature that has 100 hit points or fewer, it has to make a DC 15 con save or just die outright. No fucking luck, just dead. They also can do the flying sword attack, where they release their greatsword to hover magically around in an unoccupied space within 5 foot of it. And if the solar can see the sword can they can mentally command it as a bonus action to just fly up to 50 foot and make an attack against the target, or return to their hand, almost like Thor's Molinar. And if the hovering sword is targeted by any effect, the solar is considered to be holding it. So the hovering sword falls if the solar dies, but that's a big if, you know. And it can do the healing touch, just like the other angel types like the Deva and the Planetar. That's up to 4 times a day, and it's also buffed even more. It's like 40 hit points on average, but it's 8d8 plus 4 if it touches you. You're just getting like full healed. And it can like free you from any curse, disease, poison, blindness, deafness, all that good shit. But these can also take legendary actions, which is a little bit cut above the Deva and the Planetar. So it can like take 3 legendary actions, can only do 1 at a time, and at the end of a creature's turn, and it regains any spent points at the start of its own turn. So these are like rechargeable every turn. It can teleport magically along with any equipment it has, up to like 120 foot, as long as it can see the spot, but it's got 120 foot of true sight, so it can just pop up anywhere and switch and blur out anywhere. It can do this attack style thing called a searing burst. It takes 2 action points, but it like emits this magical sort of divine energy, and each creature of its choice in a 10 foot radius must make a DC 23 dex saving throw, which is not making unless you're a fucking rogue, or it takes 4d6 fire damage and 4d6 radiant damage, or half if it succeeds. It's just like poof, just burst into, like spontaneously combust because I say so. And it's also got like one other thing it can do, which costs it's all 3 of its action points, which will recharge at the start of its own turn. But it can like do this blinding gaze kind of thing, where it'll like target a creature it can see within 30 foot, and if the target can see it, it's overwhelmed by like its gaze and has to succeed a DC 15 con save, or it gets blinded until magic such as a lesser restoration spell removes the blindness. It's not even concentration based, it's just like, I look at you and burn, bitch, and you're like, I'm ass, and that's just you blinded until some fucking healer type comes in with like a lesser restoration. That's just you fucked. Disadvantage on attacks, advantage on any attacks made on you because you're blind. Just fucked. Just burn under my gaze. So that's us done with the angel section. Next we're going to move on to animated objects. So like I say, let's continue on with the animated objects. So animated objects are crafted with like potent magic to follow the commands of their creators. When it's not commanded, they will kind of follow the last order they were given to like the best of their ability. They can act independently if fulfill simple instructions as well. So some animated objects, including many of those created in the Feywild, might converse fluently or adopt a persona, but most are just simple automatons. They're like made of a constructed nature, so they don't need air, food, drink, or even sleep to that matter. And the magic that animates an object is dispelled when the construct drops to like 0 hit points, or dispel magic could probably be effective if it's like a mundane-esque kind of animated object. So it becomes inanimate when it's dropped to 0 hit points as well, and or if it's too damaged to be of use to anyone or value to anyone. So the animated armour itself, the sort of excerpt reads as, this empty steel shell clamours as it moves, heavy plates banging and grinding against one another, like the vengeful spirit of a fallen knight. Ponderous but persistent, this magical guardian is almost a suit of plate armour, almost always armour. To add to its menace, the animated armour is frequently enchanted with scripted speech, so the armour can utter warnings, demand passwords, or deliver riddles. Rare suits of animated armour are able to carry on an actual conversation. So their stat block kind of runs along the lines of, it's a medium construct. It's got no aligned sort of affinity of good or evil. Hit points usually around the range of 33, and it's got a movement speed of 25 foot. Its ability scores reign in at a strength of 14, dex 11, constitution 13, intelligence 1, wisdom 3, and charisma 1. It's immune to the poison or psychic damages, and its conditions it's immune to are blinded, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, paralysed, petrified, poisoned. Because it's just a mundane object with some magical life breathed into it. It's got blind sight up to 60 foot, and it's blind beyond that radius. So if you're able to dash away from it, it'll just sort of give up the goose. Its passive perception is a lowly 6, and it rocks in a meagre 1 on the CR challenge rating. So it's anti-magic susceptibility. The armour itself is incapacitated while in an area of an anti-magic field. If it's targeted by dispel magic, it must succeed on a con save against the caster spell DC or just fall unconscious for a minute. It's also got a stat block at an action of false appearance. While it remains motionless, it's indistinguishable from a normal suit of armour. Actions noted can make 2 melee attacks as a multi-attack. It can slam, which is a plus 40 hit, 5 foot reach, 1 target standard, and it does on average 5 bludgeoning damage or a d6 plus 2. Next up we've got the Flying Sword. So, Flying Sword dances through the air, fighting with the confidence of a warrior that can't be injured. Swords are the most common weapons animated with magic. Axes, clubs, daggers, maces, spears, and even self-loading crossbows are also known to exist as animated object forms. So, its stat block reigns in with the small construct, unaligned again, armour class of 17, hit point 17 average, speed of 0, but it has 50 foot of hovering flying speed. Stat abilities reign in a strength of 12, dexterity 15, constitution 11, intelligence 1, wisdom 5, charisma 1, just like the animated armour. It's got a dex saving throw plus 4, its immunities reign along the poison and psychic styles, so none of that damage will do anything. And it's also, as animated armour was, immune to being blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, paralysed, petrified, or poisoned. It's got blind sight again up to 60 foot, but blind beyond that radius, and its passive perception is 7. It rocks in at a challenge rating of a quarter, so only 1/4 of the lethality of the animated armour. Again, falls under the reign of anti-magic susceptibility. It's completely incapacitated if it's within an area of an anti-magic field. If it's targeted with dispel magic, it's a con save against the DC, or again, falls unconscious for a minute. False appearance is the same if it remains motionless and isn't flying. It's indistinguishable from a normal sword, and its action is, you guessed it, longsword. Melee attack of plus 3 to hit, reach of 5 foot, 1 target, average of 5 slashing damage, or a d8 plus 1. And the last entry in the animated objects is a rug of smothering. So imagine Aladdin's flying carpet. You would see it in the movies or cartoon show, wrapping round foes of Aladdin and sort of smothering them or keeping them in place as he makes his getaway. So think of that, but a little bit more sinister. So the rugs of smothering, let's see. Would-be thieves and careless heroes arrive at the doorstep of an enemy's abode, eyes and ears alert for traps, only to end their quest prematurely as the rugs beneath them animate and smother them to death. A rug of smothering can be made in many different forms, from a finely woven carpet fit for a queen to a coarse mat in a peasant's hovel. Creatures with the ability to sense magic detect the rug's false magical aura. Interesting, never thought of that. In some cases, a rug of smothering is disguised as a carpet of flying, just like Aladdin's, or another beneficial magic item. However, a character who stands or sits on the rug or attempts to utter a word of command is quickly trapped as the rug of smothering rolls itself tightly around its victim. Nice, grim. Let's see what the stats look like. So it's a large construct, unaligned again. It's got an AC armour class of 12, average hit points 33, speed of 10 foot. Its ability scores come in at strength 17, dexterity 14, constitution 10, intelligence 1, wisdom 3, charisma 1. And again, it's immune to poison and psychic damage, and the conditions it's immune to are the same as the other two: of blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, paralysed, petrified, or poisoned. Again, just like the other two, it's got a blind sight of 60 foot and it's blind beyond that radius, and a passive perception, this time of 6, but it rolls in at a challenge rating CR of 2. Again, it's got the stat block of anti-magic susceptibility. It will be rendered inert if it's within an anti-magic field. If it's targeted by dispel magic, it has to make a con save against a caster's spell save DC, or falls unconscious for a minute. Damage transfer though, that's an interesting one. So while it's grappling a creature, the rug takes only half the damage dealt to it, and the creature grappled by the rug takes the other half. And it again comes with the false appearance quip, while it remains motionless, it's indistinguishable from a normal rook. Its action, however, is the smother action. It's a melee weapon attack of +5 to hit with a 5-foot reach. On a medium or smaller creature, on hit, the creature is grappled. It's got an escape DC of 13, sorry, I was going to say 23. It's got an escape DC of 13. And until this grapple ends, the target is restrained and blinded, and at risk of suffocating. And the rug can smother another target. In addition, at the start of the target's turns, it takes 10 on average, or 2d6 +3 bludgeoning damage. Now, I don't see a lot of would-be DMs throwing these in the mix. What I will say is I have ran all three within the Curse of Strahd sort of hardback. There is an introductory module called Death House, where you find yourself in Barovia with some orphans, worried about what's going on inside, wanting a mum and dad, and you go in and there are a couple of suits of armour, and I also threw in a rug of smothering in there just to make it a little spicy. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun with that, and there's a little bit of horror when things come to life in the house that's mundane, and then the party end up not trusting anything, practically walking about just hitting random chairs and bookshelves just in case there's some ghost or some fucking animated item ready to jump out of them and giving them heebie-jeebies. Okay, so reining it in a little, we're going to move on to the last two entries of the A section of the Monster Manual. Okay, so moving on, we're going to move on to the Ankegs. So these are kind of like insectoid creatures. An Ankeg resembles an enormous, many-legged insect. Its long antennae switches and twitches in response to any movement around it, and its legs end up in sharp hooks that are like adapted for burrowing and traversing the underground and grasping its prey also. It's almost praying mantis-like the way their claws hook, and its powerful mandibles can snap a small tree in half. So the Ankeg, it uses its mandibles to like dig winding tunnels deep beneath the ground, and when it hunts, it burrows upward, waiting below the surface until its antennae detect movement like from above. Then it'll like burst from the earth and seize prey in its mandibles, crushing and grinding, while it secretes acidic digestive enzymes. These enzymes will help dissolve its victim for easy swallowing, but the Ankeg can also squirt acid to take down foes. Although Ankegs receive a certain portion of their nutrients from the soil through which they burrow and grow, they must supplement their diet with fresh meat. Pastures teeming with grazing livestock and forests rife with game are an Ankeg's prime hunting grounds. Ankegs are thus the bane of farmers and rangers everywhere. And as it burrows through earth, it'll like leave narrow, partially collapsed tunnels in its wake. In these tunnels, one might find the remnants of like mottled Ankeg chitin, hatched Ankeg eggs, or the grisly remains of their victims, including coins or other treasures scattered throughout the creature's attack. I've ran Ankegs in low-level adventures from the Adventures League modules. I remember it being the monster of the session, and the session ended up becoming deadlier before they'd even met the Ankeg. The group had to wait after hours in a tavern because it'd been getting vandalised and attacked, and there was this like earthquake shaking grumble from above, and they found their way into the bowels of the bar, and there was these sort of tunnels just erupted from the ground, and a little sort of sprite-like person that was then clutched and pulled into the dark abyss. And the party, much to my annoyance, decided that the tunnel and the hole itself was too big, and only two of the party had made their way down by rope, and decided, fuck that, we're going to just head back up. and that was the whole plot point and the breadcrumbs. So it wasn't spite, but I gave them difficulty checks and climbing all the way back up, because it's easy to go down tied to rope and abseiling, but it's a different story trying to climb over 120 foot upwards from a tunnel. And unfortunately, but much to the tension of the session, one of the characters met their demise, and that session was dubbed therefore Terror is a Tunnel. But anyway, back to the fun, back to the Ankeg itself. Looking at the stat block, it reigns in as a large monstrosity of an unaligned nature. It's got an AC of 14, but only 11 while it's prone. Hit points ranging an average of 39, and it's known to have speeds of up to 30 foot per action and turn, and a burrowing speed of 10 foot. Looking at its ability stat block, it comes in with strength at 17, dexterity 11, constitution 13, intelligence 1, wisdom 13, charisma 6. It's known to have senses of dark vision up to 60 foot, and it also has tremor sense up to 60 foot, with passive perception coming in at 11. Doesn't know any languages, and it rocks in at a challenge rating CR of 2. Its noted actions are the bite attack, which is a melee weapon attack at +5 to hit, reach 5 foot, 1 target. It hits on average for 10 slashing damage, or 2d6 plus 3, with an additional 3 on average, 1d6 acid damage. And if the target is large or smaller, it's grappled with an escape DC of 13. And until that grapple ends, the Ankeg can bite only the grappled creature, but does get advantage on attack rolls to do so. The Ankeg also has an acid spray action, which you must, as a DM, re-roll every round, and it only charges back on a 6. The acid spray itself is noted that the Ankeg spits acid in a line that's 30 foot long, 5 foot wide, provided that it is no creature grappled, and each creature in that line has to make a DC 13 dexterity saving throw, or it takes 3d6 acid damage, 10 on average on a failed save, half as much on a successful one. So they can be pretty punchy, pretty fearsome creatures for low level parties. Okay, so moving on. Next, A to Z, it's the last of the A entries. We have the Azer. So Azers are native of the elemental plane of fire, and they're like master crafters, expert miners even, and sworn foes of the Ifrit. In appearance and manner, they resemble like dwarves, like male dwarves, but it's a facade. Like beneath its metallic looking skin, an Azer is like a being of fire, which outwardly manifests in like fiery hair, beards, that kind of thing. And they don't reproduce, they're each like crafted from like bronze by another Azer itself, and then kind of like imbued with a portion of the Azers crafted in our flame. And each Azer is like sculpted with unique features. This crafting process kind of limits the growth of the Azer population, and it's a primary reason that these creatures remain rare. So Azers like dwell in a kingdom on the border between the elemental plane of earth and like the elemental plane of fire. Sort of like a range of mountains, volcanoes and whatnot, with whose spires like rise as a series of fortresses, and like beneath mountain peaks and whatnot, under volcanic candelabras, amid rivers of magma, that kind of thing. So Azers extract gleaming metals and glittering gems from the earth and whatnot. Squads of Azer patrol the passes and tunnels of the realm, fending off the salamander raiders whose Ifrit masters like order strikes against them in the Azer's kingdom. So long ago, the Ifrit and the Azers were allies, and the Azers helped create the City of Brass, a well-known place in D&D lore, and forging that home of the Ifrit into one of the most wondrous palaces and places in creation. So When the Azers had like finished their work, the Efreet then just turned tail and betrayed them, like making it a failed attempt to enslave the Azers so as to protect the secrets of the city or whatever they wanted to pass it off as. And despite like occasional raids and skirmishes, however, the two sides have like so far refrained from all-out conflict. Like, Azers believe that the only threat of them revealing the hidden ways into the city of Brass keeps those Efreet in check. So, like, Azers are like masterful artisans. They create like beautiful works from gems and precious metals that they find in the volcanic habitats, and they like rate the value of such treasures above all things. Sometimes dispatching parties across the plains to like seek out rare metals and gemstones for them to work with. So when Azers are called by magic to the actual material plane, it's typically to help forge some sort of like elaborate magic item or work of art, for it's said that their skill is such craft like knows no equal, and they don't like require food, drink or sleep. They're just living fire. I have ran again another module of Adventures League, and it had Azers, quite low level, you're talking level 3 to 5, and they were used within a cult, and you end up fighting off a couple of them at the end of this sort of session, and it was quite fun. It's quite fun describing the flames sort of erupting through these sort of statuesque armour things like plotted throughout this sort of cult layer and coming to life and whatnot. With a challenge rating of 2, they are, you know, reasonably good enemy fare for your low level parties. But let's look at the actual stat block of them. So looking at it, we're seeing that there are like medium elementals of a lawful nature. They come in with a AC armor class of 17, an average hit point of 39, and with the standard movement speed of 30 foot. Looking at their actual ability scores, we're looking at strength of 17, dexterity 12, constitution 15, intelligence 12, wisdom 13, and charisma of 10. Constitution saving throws of +4, and they're immune to both fire and poison damage. Their condition immunities are poisoned, and they have a passive perception of 11. The languages they understand is only Ignan, and like I said before, they rock in at a challenge rating CR level of 2, so pretty standard fare for low level parties. Their noted affinities or abilities on their stat block is heated body. Creature that touches the Azer or hits it with a melee attack whilst within 5 foot takes 5 on average fire damage, or a d10 if you want to be evil and roll. They're also noted to have heated weapons, so when they hit with a metal melee weapon, it deals an extra 3 or 1d6 fire damage, and they shed bright light in a 10 foot radius and dim light for a further 10 foot. Quite startling in those sort of subterranean cave-like cult layers, you know, they just brighten up everything once they're summoned. Their actions show to be a Warhammer, melee attack of +5 to hit, reach of 5 foot, 1 target standard. On hit they do a d8 +3 bludgeoning damage, 7 on average, or a d10 +3 bludgeoning damage if they use it with both hands to make a melee attack, with an additional d6 of fire damage. Okay, so we're about to move on to the B section. I hope you're all asleep by now, or I hope you're all relaxed and comfortable. And if you're not asleep yet, take a little moment to pop down into the comment section. Let me know what you're doing while you listen to this track. Let it be lying in bed, studying, or just fucking around. I'm curious to know. I like to know what people get up to when they listen to these. So, we're heading on to the next section of the alphabet of the Monster Manual, which is B. And we're starting off with Banshee. So banshees, let's see what this is here. So when the night falls, unlucky travellers hear the faint cries of the forlorn dead. This woeful spirit is a banshee, a spiteful creature formed from the spirit of a female elf. Banshees appear as luminous, wispy forms that vaguely recall their mortal features. A banshee's face is wreathed in a wild tangle of hair, its body clad in wispy rags that flutter and stream around it. Banshees are seen as undead remnants of elves who, blessed with great beauty, failed to use their gift to bring joy to the world. Instead, they used their beauty to corrupt and control others. Elves inflicted by the beauty of the Banshee's curse experience no gladness, feeling only distress in the presence of the living. As the curse takes its toll, their minds and bodies decay, till death completes their transformation into undead monsters. Grim. So a banshee becomes forever bound to the place of its demise, unable to venture more than 5 miles from there. It's forced to relive every moment of its life with perfect recall, yet always refuses to accept responsibility for its doom. The vanity that inspired the banshee's cursed creation persists in undeath. These creatures covet beautiful objects, fine jewellery, paintings, statues, and objects of art. At the same time, Banshee abhors any mirrored surface, for it can't bear to see the horror of its own existence. A single glimpse of itself is enough to send a Banshee into a rage. It's of the undead nature, so it doesn't require air, food, drink, or sleep. Fun story, yet again. Not that I ran a Banshee, but actually found my demise by a Banshee. I was playing one-shot evenings in a games cafe many years ago. I was a rogue, halfling rogue, by the name of Felix Swiftstepping, Swifty for short. I play Swifty as an NPC as a DM for smaller parties, and I also like to play Swifty at one-shots. Swifty's always fun. He's sneaky, he scouts ahead, and he doesn't try to overshadow people, outshine people. He slinks in the shadows, does his thing. Swifty's his own legend on many a table. But unfortunately, Swifty was scouting ahead too much, and there was a Banshee. Banshee's well dropped him to 0 hit points, and somehow managed to get away and drank some wild magic potion that had been given to me earlier in the session, and the DM decided to be a bit of an evil bastard, rolled on a wild magic table and swore that they got the fireball casts exactly where you stand. But let's not judge them too harshly. Some DMs just can't hold their chill. But anyway, another tale, another time. Maybe another couple of entries will bring Swifty back into the lore. But we'll have a look at the Banshee stat block. So the Banshee comes in as a medium undead, chaotic evil of alignment. It's got an AC armor class of 12, average hit points 58. It's got 0 speed of movement, but it does have a hovering flying speed of 40 foot. Looking at its ability scores, we've got a 1 strength, 14 dex, constitution 10, intelligence 12, wisdom 11, and 17 charisma. It boasts saving throws of a wisdom +2 or a charisma +5 saving throw, and it's resistant to the damage types of acid, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. It's immune to cold, necrotic, and poison damage outright, and the conditions it seems to be immune to are the kind of standard: charmed, exhaustion, frightened, grappled, paralysed, petrified, poisoned, prone, or restrained. It's got dark vision up to 60 foot and a passive perception score of 10. And its languages known are Common and Elvish. This clocks in at a CR challenge of 4, which I am going to say could be pushed higher, because you'll see soon. Some of these actions it has are a little brutal, so even a CR of 4 for a low level party, this can be absolute wipes party, TPK, total party kill. But let's have a look at this. So, it's got Detect Life, which states that the Banshee can magically sense the presence of creatures up to 5 miles away that aren't undead or constructs. She knows the direction they're in, but not their exact location. She also boasts of having incorporeal movement. That means that the Banshee can move through other creatures' objects as if they were difficult terrain, which is half speed. And she takes 5 force damage, or a d10, if she ends her turn inside an object itself. The actions that a Banshee can do are as follows. It has Corrupting Touch, which is a melee spell attack with +4 to hit, 5 foot reach, 1 target, but it hits for 3d6 plus 2 necrotic damage. Average of 12, but who uses averages? DM always roll the dice, and that's brutal even for a lowly level. It also has Horrifying Visage. Each non-undead creature within 60 foot of the Banshee that can see it has to succeed a DC 13 Wisdom saving throw, or it's frightened for a minute. A frightened target can repeat a saving throw at the end of its turn, with disadvantage if the Banshee is within line of sight, ending the effect on itself on a success. If target saving throw is successful or the effect ends for it, it's immune to that Horrifying Visage for the next 24 hours. But this is the clincher. This is what happened to me. This is what happened to poor old Swifty. It's got another action type of once a day it can wail. It releases a mournful wail provided that she isn't in sunlight. And this wail has no effect on constructs or undead, but all other creatures within 30 foot that can hear her has to make a DC 13 Constitution saving throw. On a failure, it drops to 0 hit points. On a success, it takes 3d6 psychic damage. So that's 18 at best. And level 4 characters, level 3 characters, they're not going to have a lot of hit points. So even if they succeed, they're still going to be fucking bad. Going to be bad, man. But most of us do fail, and a whole party drops to 0, and the DM's chuckling like a maniac. So that was Banshees. Okay, so continuing on, next we have in the B section, Basilisk. Now this isn't the basilisk that's commonly known in folklore, the large hulking serpent with a petrifying gaze, Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets. These are a little more sinister of sorts. They have the appearance of like a many-legged dog with tail and spikes and eyes. It's a dog's a bit of a loose term, but it's like that kind of size and look of object, or creature should I say, but with loads of legs, like 8 legs. Anyway, let's have a look at what the monster manual says about them. So, travellers sometimes find objects that look like pieces of remarkably lifelike stone carvings of wildlife. Missing parts appear to have been bitten off. Seasoned explorers regard such relics as warnings, knowing that the basilisks that appear or have created them are likely to be nearby. They're adaptable predators, so they thrive in arid temperatures or tropical climates. They lair in caves or other sheltered sites. Most often, basilisks are encountered underground. A basilisk born and raised in captivity can be domesticated and trained. Such a trained basilisk knows how to avoid meeting the eyes of those its master wishes to protect from its gaze, but it makes a daunting guardian beast. Because of this use, basilisk eggs are highly prized. Basilisks are ponderous for hunting creatures, but they needn't chase prey. Meeting a basilisk's supernatural gaze can be enough to effect a rapid transformation, transforming a victim to porous stone. So very akin to the serpent's well-known lore. The petrifying gaze is still something that Basilisk in D&D has. The stone returns to organic form in the basilisk gullet when eaten, and basilisks with their strong jaws are able to consume the stone. Some alchemists are said to know how to process the basilisk gullet and the fluids contained within. Properly handled, the gullet produces an oil that can actually return petrified creatures back to flesh and life. Unfortunately for such a victim, any parts lost in stone form remain absent in the creature if the creature themselves revives. Revivification using the oil is impossible if a vital part of the petrified creature, such as its head, is detached. Usually we would say that a greater restoration that can reverse petrification is one of the only things that can actually change these effects, or a spell of greater value. But let's look at the stat block. Let's see. So a basilisk comes in as a medium monstrosity of an unaligned nature. It's got an AC arm class of 15, hit points on average of 52, and it's got 20 feet of speed. I'd probably give it a burrowing speed of 10 foot, kind of like the Anki, because it has to burrow underground and move around a bit. But it's not noted in the Monster Manual. Looking at its ability scores, its strength comes in at 16, dexterity 8, constitution 15, intelligence 2, wisdom 8, and charisma 7. It's got dark vision of up to 60 foot and a passive perception of 9. It doesn't understand any languages as standard, and it rocks in at a challenge rating of 3. I would bump that up to a 4 or a 5, depending if you're using multiples and depending on your party composition. So, it has a stat block note of a petrifying gaze. Let's look at that. So if a creature starts its turn within 30 foot of the basilisk, and two of them can see each other, i.e. the person and the basilisk can force the creature to make a DC 12 constitution saving throw if the basilisk isn't incapacitated. On a failed save, creature magically begins to turn to stone and is restrained. It must repeat the saving throw at the end of every turn. On a success, the effect ends. On a failure, it continues its petrified state until freed by greater restoration spell or other magic. A creature that isn't surprised can avert its eyes to avoid the saving throw at the start of the turn. If it does so, it can't see the basilisk until the start of its next turn, when it can avert its eyes again. If it looks at the basilisk in the meantime, it has to immediately make that save. If the basilisk sees its reflection within 30 foot of its bright light, it mistakes itself for a rival and targets itself with its gaze, so it can turn the power against it, almost like the Medusa mythos. Its bite attack comes in as a melee weapon attack of +5 to hit with a reach of 5 foot as standard. One target, 2d6 plus 3 piercing damage, average 10, but who uses averages? And it also boasts 2d6 poison damage on top of that. Now, I have been both a player against basilisks, and I've also used basilisks in a mini campaign that I ran, and we had this very potent Hexblade Warlock who seemed to just absolutely destroy most things it came across, and this character, player and person, were humbled by the basilisk. The person himself was actually a theatre actor in real life, so I take my hat off to him. Trini, wherever you are, he played along with it very well. He played into the fact that he came across a noticeable barrier from the normal combat he was acclimated to. He played into the fact that he could feel the stone start from toe to knee, and the fear it induced, the question of his own strength afterwards when he was saved eventually. It was great. Absolutely loved it. And we didn't have crybaby players. We had players that knew that they were up against real threats, made the game actually engaging, intense and enjoyable. So that's Basilisk, a fun beast to behold. Okay, so moving on to what will be the last monster entry for this video, because the next section has multiple entries and is best saved for the start of the next video. But I appreciate all of you that have watched this, fell asleep to this, or found some comfort or entertainment within it. So, to finish off things, we're going to talk about Behir. So, These look like a very elongated version of the basilisk sans spikes protruding from it. Kind of serpentine looking, big long tail, multiple arms or legs depending on how you want to look at it. They boast of maybe 10 instead of the 8 that a basilisk would have. But let's look at what the monster manual describes them as. So the eggs there would read as such. The serpentine behir crawls along floors and chambers, up walls to reach its prey. Its lightning breath can incinerate most creatures, even as more powerful foes are constricted in its coils and alive. A behir's monstrous form resembles a combination of centipede and crocodile. Its scaled hide ranges from ultramarine to deep blue in colour, fading to pale blue on its underside. The behir are known as cavern predators. They lie in places inaccessible to most creatures, favouring locations where would-be intruders must make a harrowing climb to reach them. Deep pits, high caves and cliff walls, and caverns reached only by narrow twisting tunnels, are prime sites for a behir ambush. A behir's dozen legs allow it to scramble through the lair site with ease. When not climbing, it moves even faster by folding its legs beneath its body and slithering like a snake. Behirs swallow their prey whole, after which they enter a period of dormancy while they digest. While dormant, a behir chooses a hiding place where intruders in its lair might overlook it. They're known foes of dragons. In times long forgotten, giants and dragons engaged in seemingly endless war. Storm giants created the first behirs as weapons against the dragons, and behirs retain a natural hatred for dragonkind. A behir never makes its lair in an area it knows to be inhabited by a dragon. If a dragon attempts to establish a lair within a few dozen miles of a behir's lair, the behir is compelled to kill the dragon or drive it out. Only if the dragon proves too powerful to fight back does a behir back down, seeking out a new lair a great distance away. So looking at the actual stat block itself, a behir is classed as a huge monstrosity of neutral evil. Its armour class AC is 17, hit points average of 168. It's got a speed of 50 foot per action turn and a climbing speed of 40 foot. Looking at its stat abilities, its strength comes in at 23, dexterity 16, constitution 18, intelligence 7, wisdom 14, charisma 12. It has skills noted as perception plus 6 and stealth plus 7. It's immune to lightning damage and has senses of dark vision up to 90 foot with a passive perception of 16. Languages noted known are Draconic, and it rocks in at a challenge rating CR of 11. It's quite high up there. Its noted actions are a multi-attack. It can make 2 attacks, one with its bite and one to constrict. The bite attack comes in at a melee weapon attack of a plus 10 to hit, reach of 10 foot with a target single, and it does 3d10 plus 6 piercing damage. Its constrict attack is again a melee weapon attack, plus 10 to hit, reach of 5 foot, on one large or smaller creature. It does 2d10 plus 6 bludgeoning damage, with an additional 2d10 plus 6 slashing damage. The target is grappled and can only escape with a DC check of 16. And if the behir isn't already constricting a creature, the target is restrained until the grapple ends. It also has a noted action of a lightning breath attack, which recharges each round on a roll of a d6 with 5 or 6. And the behir exhales a line of lightning that is 20 foot long, 5 foot wide, and any creature in that line must make a DC 16 saving throw, taking 12d10 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. That's brutal. CR11 is well noted. It's got one final entry here, and its actions, which is swallow. The behir makes one bite attack against a medium or smaller target it's grappling, and if that attack hits, the target is also swallowed and the grapple will end. Whilst swallowed, the target is blinded and restrained, and it has total cover against attacks and any other effects outside of the behir. but it takes 6d6 acid damage at the start of each of the Behir's turns, and the Behir have only one creature swallowed at any time. If the Behir takes 30 damage or more in a single turn from the swallowed creature itself, the Behir has to make a DC 14 con saving throw at the end of that turn, or else it regurgitates the creature, which will fall prone in place within 10 foot of the Behir. And if the Behir dies, the swallowed creature is no longer restrained by it and can escape the corpse by using 15 feet of movement, exiting prone. Well, that is the last entry for this video. So I hope it's been informative, or at least it's been enjoyable enough for you to all fall asleep. You should not be making it to the end of this video. You should be long rested, sleeping, snoring, snoozing away, and finding yourself waking up and thinking, where did I leave? Where was it last left off before I fell asleep? It is my hope to help many of you relax, drift off, and enjoy the lore on top of some casual gameplay of the different games that I enjoy day to day, and hopefully some more videos to come. So with that, I'll say thank you for tuning in, thank you for enjoying, and hopefully there'll be a few more of these videos to come. Peace.
いただいていく。ここはペルソナ。ごめんね、私が倒れるわけに。これで決める。フルスロットル。かき回して強め。ありがとうね。これでどうだ。旅路へと誘わせてもらう。速攻でやりましょう。やるわよ、ペルソナ。これでどうだ。無理は禁物よ、ペルソナ。当たらない。かき回して強め。ありがとうね。いただいていく。旅路へと誘わせてもらう。さあどうぞこちらへ。読みやすい。さあ契約の時間だ。ここはペルソナ。私の出番ね。ありがとうね。これで決める。フルスロットル。これで総崩れよ。かき回して強め。いただいていく。ここはペルソナ。受けてみろ。さあどうぞこちらへ。
へと誘わせてもらう。
速攻でやりましょう。ここはペルソナ。
ここまでか。
かき回して血をね。ここはペルソナ。お灸を据えてあげましょう。倍返しするからペルソナ。